Happy Easter, you intelligent lamb. Welcome back to the Movie Night Reviewer. I'm your host today, Peter Whaley. Today we're going to be talking about the movie Risen. I was going to put out this review yesterday, but I didn't find time on Holy Saturday to record it, so I'm going to record it today and put it out today. Hope you guys enjoyed your Easter and your Holy Week and all. Let's get into this. For those who do not know what this movie is, this movie follows a Roman soldier named Clavius as he investigates the missing body of Jesus. And through the movie, you see him trying to find, he keeps thinking he might be on to a lead, but then every single time he meets the apostle and he's like, oh yes, I'm finally getting a lead. And then suddenly he's back to square one when they're like, he's risen. That's the fact of the matter is he's risen and I'm willing to die on that. And he's just like back to square one again. I will talk later on about what happens closer to halfway through the movie that really changes this movie from a movie I was mid about to a movie I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I can't believe they actually managed to do this. But let's start out by just talking about stuff I don't like about this movie. Now, all the stuff about this movie that I don't like are kind of nitpicky, kind of like, it doesn't destroy the movie, it just, I wish they were better. Starting with one that's the most I'm a mid about is the writing. The writing of this movie is, I can't say it's bad, but it's also not good. It's kind of just mid writing. I don't really have much to say about it because it's just like, coming from a screenwriter type person, I can see problems, but it's not like it was really that big of like, they did all this they did all this mistakes. It was more that it was just an average screenplay. Like the plot was good, the story was good, but it was kind of just like how they had all the lines written was kind of just like bland and kind of just a part of the story. It was nothing like fantastical with the writing at all. The big nitpick I have with this is probably that of the visuals. I don't know, maybe it was the way I was watching it, but it was way too grainy and dull. It kind of took away from it because it was like, at the beginning of the movie, it does get better at closer to the end. I was realizing this when I was writing this review quickly, that it actually at the end of the movie, it gets better after you know he's risen from the dead and all that kind of stuff, and you see, the moment it becomes Easter now, it gets a little bit lighter, but at the beginning of the movie, I can understand why it's dull because it's the crucifixion and all. But it kind of has just this dull look to the whole movie that I think they could have lightened it up a little bit. Kind of falls in the same category. I get it. I mean, we have a big problem in movies nowadays where realistic. You have to make everything realistic. And realistic says that it has to be dull looking. The fact of the matter is, a movie can be enjoyable. It can have sometimes dull looking scenes, but it has to have something in the scene that's causing you to want to keep watching. All the scenes are just kind of dull and the writing is kind of dull, so it's kind of like the only reason why I was able to watch all the way through is because the story and the plot and all were good, and I wanted to see it go all the way through. Another thing is that you have to keep in mind is that this is not biblically accurate at all. It has some good biblical stuff in it, but for the most part, the scenes that happen in this would not said, probably would never have happened in the Bible and all. So it's good, but it's not like it's incredible. It has some good moments where you're like, yes, that's biblically accurate, but a lot of the moments are like, even with when Jesus goes up into heaven, it was like, but it literally says in the Bible they saw him going up into heaven, and that one they just had to say it was like a shooting star going up, and you couldn't really see what was going on, and they couldn't really see well. There was no angels appeared to them afterwards to tell them that he had gone up to heaven and all. There was wasn't very clear about what was going on with Pentecost. There's a lot of like moments where it's like, that's not exactly how it happened. In the Bible, yes, they took some liberties with what happens in the Bible, just like what The Chosen does. But overall, I think I think it didn't take away from it. It was kind of just like, it did kind of like, as a Christian, I was able to be like, okay, that's not accurate to what actually happened in the Bible, but okay. Another thing that's just mid about this is the music is kind of just average. I don't remember any of the music in this. There was music in it, I know, but I don't remember any of the music. Now let's get on to what I like about this film. starting with one of the biggest things that I really liked about this film was at the beginning of the film, it was given this impression that by the end of the film, it wouldn't be clear whether Jesus actually rose from the dead or whether he didn't. It was kind of like, oh, he might be finding a lead, and it was even with the apostles, it was kind of like, it sounds like they're trying to say something, but it's not they have no proof that it's real, and it felt a little bit like it was, all those people actually being accurate, or people actually being truthful, or the apostles just trying to hide his body or something like that. So I was getting worried that I was going to finish this movie and I was going to have to give it a negative review because of the reason that it was going to be like kind of going down the route of, did he rise from the dead or did he not? But halfway through the film, there's a scene where he's hunting down a lead on Jesus, and he walks into the upper room and he sees the risen Jesus. And it was like, at that moment, the movie completely changed from him investigating what happens to him knowing that Jesus is risen, and he's following the apostles and meeting up with them when they meet up with Jesus. He's like, has a whole conversation with Jesus. He's like, it's no longer him just not believing, he now believes. And there's moments before that where he's kind of questioning his sanity, and he kind of says, maybe it's up to that I haven't been sleeping, and maybe I need to just go sleep again. But Jesus is actually risen, and he sees the risen Jesus, and it's really awesome, and I love that. One thing I really liked about the beginning of this was when it came to the crucifixion, when you saw them taking down the bodies. With the two thieves, they like threw them in a pit, and you got to see all these different bodies. And of course, I'm not going to show a scene because maybe some people watching this don't want to see a scene with a bunch of dead bodies. But you see this scene, you see this moment, this shot of all these bodies of all these people that have been crucified, and it gives this moment of like, yeah, look, this was not the only 3 people who ever got crucified. There's a lot of people who got crucified by the Romans. The Romans, that was their way of like, crucifixions were like their way of sending a message. You try to rebel against us, this is what's going to happen to you. So I really liked seeing that there was, and it does come up again when they had them digging through the bodies, trying to see if they could find the body of Jesus in the group. And so it was really nice to be able to like have that shot where even that it looked disgusting and all, that you was reminding us that that Jesus is not one of the only people who got crucified. There was a lot of crucifixions happening, and it's interesting that they had a shot where you saw a whole pit with a bunch of bodies of people who got crucified before. Something that after watching The Chosen, seeing the apostles in this is kind of like a little different, because The Chosen is going for come to think of it, that The Chosen's all the apostles are younger men, which is interesting, right? But in this one, they have like Peter and all. He's like the oldest of the group, and he has like some gray in his beard, and you can tell he's an older man. Now, I don't believe that Peter was the oldest of the group, but of course it doesn't say anything in the Bible about the ages of the apostles, so they might have been younger people like in The Chosen, or they might have been some older men. Not old men, but I mean, we know for one thing that John the Beloved was the youngest of the group, but you don't really have a good estimate of their ages. There are like biblical studies that try to discover, and historical people who try to figure out what ages would they have been. But overall, I liked the casting in this movie, especially Jesus. The problem that I was thinking about after watching this movie is with The Chosen, is I can see, and this is something I keep meaning to bring up in The Chosen, and I will talk about it in The Chosen episode, in the 3rd season, I will bring it up again, but I can see The Chosen Jesus as a man, but they haven't done a good job showing him as God. This movie, I think, makes a good balance where he's kind of human, but he also has there's something like almost different about him, something more like high up than most humans. And I like that. This is the Jesus that I can imagine dying on a cross. Wow, Jesus from The Chosen is more someone you would go to a barbecue with. Well, that's my thoughts about Risen. If you haven't seen it yet, it's a great Easter movie if you are, I would say, over the age of maybe 15 or something. It's good. It's kind of like a sequel to the Passion, it's really cool to see this because it was kind of like, the Passion was dealing with his death. While you do see his death in this for a little bit, it's mainly dealing with the aftermath. And I think the casting in this movie is good. The visuals are, they kind of are lacking, but overall it's not like it's terrible. It's not bad quality. It's just that it's kind of bland looking. The writing is kind of mid, but the story and plot is great. And if you want to watch a movie about Easter, this is a great movie that will help clarify. And I think it does a great job with saying, like, for all those people who are doubting, did he actually rise from the dead? Yes, this movie does a great job showing, like, yeah, he rose from the dead. Thank you guys for watching. This has been the Movie Night Reviewer. Peter Wary, signing off.